Today marks 1 week since the Prime Minister, Dean Barrow, called a press conference to present the figures of the BTL arbitration award. As a result, with a total of over $500 million having to be paid out as a result of an out-of-court settlement that the Prime Minister agreed to with Lord Michael Ashcroft, Senator Eamon Courtney has expressed serious concerns surrounding the manner in which the matter was settled.
Was the judgment of a CCJ, it would be a different issue. But in fact, what we had was, after all the arguments were completed in the arbitration and all the arguments were completed in the ICJ, before the decisions were handed down, the CCJ, sorry, and the arbitration, the Prime Minister went to Miami and met with Lord Ashcroft, and they settled the case. So my comments are on the settlement, not so much on the legal issues, because they were never finally resolved by the CCJ. I believe that the settlement was not in the interest of Belize. I think it took too long. All the things that the Ashcroft group of companies were asking for, they got. And I cannot understand why it is, after millions upon millions of dollars have been spent in legal fees and millions of dollars in interest have been accrued, that we just go to Miami and concede everything on the BCB loan, concede virtually everything on the shares, and agree to pay it all within a year. I think it's a complete concession by the government, and I think the people of Belize want an explanation at the exorbitant $550 million that has to be paid.
According to the Financial Secretary Joseph Waite, the total number of shares acquired from Belize Telemedia Limited is 45,199,961. The tribunal valued each share at 5.6547 Belize dollars, thus making the gross figure 255.5 million Belize dollars. A part payment was done in the sum of $65 million last September, leaving a balance of $190 million to be paid on the shares. As it relates to the interest, the total is about $388 million, and that does not factor in the legal costs and arbitration costs, which would bring it to $395 million. Senator Courtney spoke on this grand total, saying that the settlement could have been done long ago and the cost wouldn't have been as extravagant.
Let us remember, in 2009, August 25th, when the Prime Minister went to the National Assembly, he gave us his rationale, the accommodation agreement. The point I was making earlier on Creme Radio was that the accommodation agreement has never been challenged by the government. The government has never gone to court and said this agreement is unlawful. If that was a document that was a problem, the proper thing to do was to go to court and to seek to have it declared unlawful. Now what we have is an arbitral tribunal that says it is valid, and another arbitral tribunal that is saying there is a value between $200 to $300 million that is attributed to that accommodation agreement. It is passing strange that there are two cases, one brought by the ACB and Senator Holtz, and another brought by the PUC, challenging the accommodation agreement. These were filed in March 2009, and those two cases have never come to trial. The government has not allowed those cases to come to trial. If those cases had been tried, you would have had a judgment by 2010, and it would have said that the accommodation agreement is either valid or it is not valid. If it was held to be unlawful, then this $200 to $300 million that we're paying for the accommodation agreement, we wouldn't have to pay. So I am saying that the way in which the government has gone about this has been negligent, has been in dereliction of duty, and the surrender in Miami by the Prime Minister to all the demands of the Ashcroft group of companies, I think is really beyond anything that the Belizean people should accept.
A question that surfaced here is why Senator Eamon Courtney would be criticizing the BTL arbitration award when he is one of the attorneys for Lord Michael Ashcroft. When that question was posed to him, here is how he responded.
I am complaining as a PUP senator, as a member of the PUP executive, and as a Belizean. I emphasize to you again, what happened in Miami was a surrender, a negotiated surrender by the Prime Minister. It wasn't a judgment of the CCJ. It wasn't a judgment of any arbitral tribunal. It wasn't a judgment of our courts. That was something that was negotiated. And I am entitled to criticize what was negotiated by the Prime Minister because I do not believe that it is in the interest of Belize. And we have $550 million to pay as a result of that concession. The point of the matter is, Daniel, and no one is going to silence me regardless of what you say and whatever you say. I'm a professional and I earn my fees, and that's how I make my living. And I make no apologies for that. What I will say is I did not get a dollar from the government of Belize. That is what I will say. I will go further and say that there is no issue for me representing any client that I choose to accept instructions from, and if they pay me, they pay me. And I make no apology for that. I have a difficulty, however, with the Prime Minister of Belize arguing and fighting against the Ashcroft group of companies and his law firm at the same time continuing to represent the same companies that he's saying are so demonic and that they are bad for Belize. That is a conflict of interest that requires an explanation. As to me, that's the way I make my living, and I do it to the best of my ability every time for all my clients. I make no apology for that.
The BTL arbitration award comes after 7 years of court litigations. According to Prime Minister Dean Barrow, this is a victory for Belize and he has no regrets.